This episode is sponsored by Medicine Based Beauty, where beauty is backed by science.
Ladies of CNY, what are your plans for Valentine's Day? Get ready to celebrate sisterhood and join us for an unforgettable night of fun, friendship, and fabulousness on Thursday, February 13th. Expect delicious food, a bouquet bar, astrology readings, massages, jewelry, and so much more. As a special thank you to our listeners, use code Cultivate CNY at checkout for $5 off your ticket. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to celebrate Valentine's Day with your besties. Visit cnywomensnetwork.com/events to grab your tickets and get ready for the best girls' night ever. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Cultivate CNY. I'm your host, Alex Canavan, and in today's episode, we're thrilled to welcome Danielle Mercuri. She's a dynamic restaurateur, a creative entrepreneur, and a community leader. Danielle has faced an incredible journey this past year, marked by immense challenges and inspiring resilience. From her rise as a successful restaurateur to navigating the closure of multiple restaurants and overcoming personal and professional obstacles, Danielle's story is a testament to the power of failing upwards. She's here to share lessons learned, insights on balancing life, motherhood, and business, and how she reframed failure as a stepping stone to her success. We'll also dive into Danielle's exciting new venture, Louise, which is at the Everson Museum, and her ongoing commitment to community and creativity. This episode is packed with wisdom, inspiration, and actionable advice for anyone facing their own crossroads. Be sure to settle in and join us for an inspiring conversation about resilience, reinvention, and the power of faith in the journey ahead. Without further ado, let's get into it. Danielle Mercuri, welcome to Cultivate CNY.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. It's definitely a pleasure. My second round.
Yeah, this is Danielle's second episode. So I went to you to record that one. I went to La La Lu, so the backdrop was nice and colorful and beautiful.
It was. I know all the pretty art.
Yes.
Everything.
Which you had custom made, right?
Everything was custom made. Yes.
And was it an artist based out of Syracuse, or where did you find her?
She's a local. Actually, she was a professor at SU for the architectural design and art. She's an artist here in Syracuse.
Love that. Syracuse is full of really interesting people. I feel like
amazing people, to be honest. Yes,
very talented.
You gotta really find them though. Sometimes they hide.
Yeah, that's what I've realized too.
Yeah.
Kickly give us a little background. Who's Danielle Mercuri aside from restaurateur?
Just so you know, she's making me do that. No, I'm kidding. I have, who am I? I'm a mother. I'm a mother. I am a partner, soon to be wifey at some point, hopefully. I'm a person. I'm a human. I'm a woman. I'm a business entrepreneur. I want to consider myself a little bit of an artist, I'd say.
You're definitely an artist.
I like to. I call myself a creative because I don't want to say artist because I feel like artist puts you in that people look at you like you're a painter or a sculptor or I'm like no,
you're a creative.
creative.
On my cue card, I have businesswoman, mother, and creative force.
Creative force. I like that. It's nice. Thank you. Yeah, I think creative is the best word to describe because creative means so many different things. I can be creative at cooking. I can be creative at, my hair. I can be creative at being a mom. I can be creative at anything. And it's just a big plethora of things that anyone could be creative at. So
what was your first creative outlet?
If you asked my mother, she would tell you because I don't remember these things, but she always brings it up because now she sees me, obviously being able to show it more. But I was probably like 8. And when we were, the wealthiest family, we were probably, middle class, maybe more to the less middle class end. And she couldn't afford, we loved Barbies, and she couldn't afford like the doll houses, like the Barbie houses, they're really big, expensive. And I really wanted one. And I was like, okay, never mind. So we had a ton of books. We would take the books and I would build these. I had this huge basement. I would build these huge like a mall and houses and everything out of these rooms. I would make out of the books, and then I would take, my own clothing, and I would cut it up and make up like a couch or a chair, or I would make anything out of whatever I had and just start making stuff for my Barbies. So that was like, she was like, wow, okay. I think she likes art or something, in that nature. And then I got really into my art, and obviously I'd bring home my little drawings, and she put them up on the walls, and I thought they're the most amazing things because I made them, and Mom was so proud. But I think I've always just had that knack for something. I used to sew. I started sewing. She would bring me to like Michael's or Joanne Fabrics actually back in the day, and we would just take those at-home kits. And I'm like 10,
Like a sewing kit?
Yeah, like a little sewing kit, or like the knitting kits. So I crocheted, I did the knitting. I sewed. I remember my first thing I sewed, it was boxers. Why there were boxers for a little girl is beyond me. But I made these boxers, and they were brown with white polka dots. The weirdest thing. But I love them, and I wore them to bed because I made them. So it's just, I've always, I think my mom, kind of pushed that on. I don't want to say she pushed it on me, but she was like that arts and crafts lady. She was the, what do they call them? The PTO moms. Mm-hmm. So she always did the little craft bazaars at the school, and I just loved it. It was something that I just grew to love to do.
I think when you grow up not being able to have everything you want, you also become really resourceful.
Exactly.
Which forces you to get creative, right?
For sure. Resourceful, yes.
But it also sounds like you're pretty headstrong, and you, when you want something,
I'll get it.
It doesn't matter what anyone says, you're going to find a way to have it.
I will. I definitely. And that's, that's something you want to teach a lot of young little girls anyway. You can get whatever you want as long as you work hard and figure it out. But yeah, that was something I did as a young girl.
So what about in your teenage years? How did you kind of expand upon that creativity, and like, who did you think you were going to be when you grew up, when you were a teenager?
You know who I actually was inspired by some of the I don't want to say odd people, but there was like to this day I cannot remember her name. She reminds me of like Betty White. She looked like her, but she was very kind of outlandish, outspoken. She wore like these crazy. She almost reminds me of that. What's that designer's name?
Vivienne Westwood,
kind of like that genre, like
Betsy Johnson.
Betsy Johnson. They had like the wild hair and they were like this old woman
very
with this
eccentric.
crazy, very eccentric, and they were my inspiration then. I just wanted to be kind of, and to me, you look at me this day, we're black and white, and I don't wear any crazy
tired.
stuff.
It's decision fatigue. I always tell people, I'm like, I used to be way cooler, like, but now I don't have it in me to be eccentric anymore.
No,
I used to be very eccentric, but not so much now.
But no, I think you still are. You are in your mind, but it's tough. Like, it's always like, does my body look good on that? Like, can I wear the crazy, colors?
Yeah, when you're
a kid, you don't care.
You don't care. You just want to express yourself, and you're trying to find any outlet to do that in. And I definitely think that, like, my thirst for creativity is definitely in my work, and I get to be creative in so many other ways now, so I don't have to appear in the world like a super creative person. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting, but
those that's where you think the creatives are, is when you see these kooky glasses and these fun sweaters and just this. But that's not true. I mean, there's so many creatives that'll wear the all black, but they're super intelligent, super creative. But that's where I started, just like, oh, I want to be like them. I want to do something crazy. I would wear the weird clothing. I used to have these pants that were all striped with a million different colors from, oh my God, there was a place in the mall, Color something. My sister would know. I don't remember. But
do you remember that one place in the mall? It existed like probably within the last 10 years. It was like the legging store. And there was like... It was just all, I don't know, maybe I'm making this up. It's just leggings, but they're all
It was
crazy.
Macy's. You just didn't know. It was in the men's section. But I'm older than you, so I'm dating myself, and we used to call them the Sesame Street pants. Like that's how crazy colored, weird stuff and it was back then. Think of the '90s. Think of like just that genre, like how we dressed. That was in, So that was my teenage years, and I wasn't a good child. But that's okay.
What do you mean by that?
Um, I was very expressive. You told me no. I said, well, why can't I? And I would just do it, and not, not in a good way. I fell into a group of people. We all just wanted to do what we wanted to do, and no one was going to tell us no. And I ran away from home at one point. I literally went to Florida. I was 12.
Oh my God. How did you find your way to Florida?
My mom, oh my goodness. Because I had older friends, so one had a car. We all took a trip. And to me, I'm just going for a joyride. I'm going to be gone for a few days. I'll be back. No worries, Mom. Don't worry. She didn't know.
You didn't see the danger in it at all?
Not at all. I mean, you just don't.
Are you ready to take your career, connections, and professional growth to the next level? The 2025 CNY Women's Summit is just around the corner on March 7th, and this is your chance to be a part of an empowering day filled with inspiring speakers, interactive workshops, and meaningful networking opportunities. Early bird tickets have already sold out, but don't worry, standard tickets are still available. But here's the thing, they're going fast, and you don't want to miss out. So, as a thank you for being a part of our wonderful podcast community, we're offering you $10 off your ticket when you use the code Cultivate CNY at checkout. Don't wait. Head over to cnywomensnetwork.com/summit to grab your ticket today. And let's make 2025 the year of bold moves and big wins.
I was on a milk carton. I'm not kidding. Like I was a missing child. Yeah. I was I was to that extent of bad and fearless. Totally. I don't condone it. I would kill my kid if they did any of these things, but yeah, and it led me to some bad places, of course, because you have to be reprimanded for doing things like that. I ended up in a foster home for almost 2 years. They had taken me away from my parents because they thought she's too bad. She doesn't go to school. She doesn't listen to you. She's got to go somewhere that she's going to be disciplined. And back then they did a lot of that. They would put you on these pins. They would put you in these places. At one point, they tried to scare me straight. It was like a scare me straight program. And I did a walk in the public safety building. And we got to go down and see all the people in jail. And literally, it was scary. I was probably, 13, 12. We were talking literally from 11 to 15 with some serious things that I would dabble in, just trying to, I don't know.
You just want to try a lot, probably. What do you think, why do you think that was? Do you think you were just looking to get any experience you could? Because I think that's how I was. I was always up for an experience.
Yeah.
And that led me to some certain situations that were questionable, for sure.
Yeah.
But it really was just this desire to experience life. Mm-hmm. And to experience maybe more than my parents had or the place that I come from, right?
Absolutely.
So what do you think that was for you?
I think almost the same. It was my parents. To me, I was living like a boring life. Go to school. I didn't get everything I wanted. I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't rich or anything like that. I was, middle to lower class, didn't have everything. But like I said, I was more of the creative. So I was more interested in doing arts and singing and stuff like that. I tried, I think I did soccer, intramural soccer, because I was a short girl. I was short, petite. It's not like I was going to be, in basketball or volleyball. Like I'm too short. So I tried soccer. I didn't love it. I was never just like really athletic. So I think where I found myself was, I don't want to say the bad kids because they're never really bad. but I found myself with the kids that weren't paid attention to enough unless they screamed loud enough to say something.
Like kind of the outcasts a little bit.
Always. I was always like, and I was drawn to them.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be part of your world. I don't care that you're getting in trouble. I think it's fun, And
You want it to be different.
Always. To this day, I always want to be different. I want to do something different. I want to open doors, do things people haven't done. And that started, it's just in me, And, I paid the price for it. I was a young mom. I ended up pregnant at 15, had my daughter at 16. And I think without having that experience, I'd probably be in a really different world today, because nothing really would stop me, But once you become a mother, I don't care what age, it really puts a halt to whatever you're doing, and it's not about you anymore. It's about your child. And at 15, 16 years old, I had to really think about that,
That is so young to think, to have such a serious, heavy responsibility.
Oh yeah. And you know how they say it takes a village? It really does. Because I was a teenager, it took a village to help me, but I had an amazing, my family, the support of other mothers, that just kind of just took me under their wing, helped me. I never moved back home. I left. I came back. I left when I was 16. I moved into my own apartment. Of course, my parents helped me, but I'm 16, living in my own apartment with my daughter, and the the father at the time, who was, and you don't choose your partners at that age wisely,
No.
So, he went out of the picture. She was only 3 months old. I moved back in with my parents, and then I was like, okay, I can't be here. I can't live at home with my daughter. Like, I need to be on my own. I met my husband then, and then we just kept continuing to have a family. So I just moved on, and at 17, so I was 18, and then I was 20, 21, 20, going on 22 when I had my third daughter.
So 16, 18, and then 22?
22, yeah.
So you have 3 daughters.
I have 3 daughters. They're all in their 20s and 30. My oldest is 30. She's 30 years old today. Older than you, yes. Insane.
It's impressive, though, because you don't look
Impresses
a day
me.
over 30.
Well, thank you. Yes. I have friends that help me with that, but we all know who they are.
So, how did you get into the restaurant business? I mean, you've had quite a journey, but I didn't hear you mention anything about wanting to be a restaurant owner.
It was never a thought. I became a server at one point because I needed money. I was a mom. I needed cash. My mom and dad were both in the restaurant business at an early age, grocery stores, restaurants, mostly for the family stuff. And always like in the food beverage industry anyway. And, so I worked at Grimaldi's and stayed a server from the time I was 14 till I was 22 after I had my third daughter. And then I wanted to get out, and I tried, and I went into the office, and then I came back, and Peter Hennessy, who was the original owner of Rise and Shine, had said he needed someone, so I just became a server. And the story goes, as I believe a lot of people know, that Peter Hennessy became ill with leukemia, and he had willed Rise and Shine to me. So at, 32 years old, I became the owner of a restaurant and had no experience whatsoever other than being a server and a creator. So,
and you really turned things around for Rise and Shine. I mean, you gave it a whole new concept, and it was just like off to the races as soon as you really took things over. What was that success like for you? What were the thoughts going through your mind? I'm sure it was just constant work, but what was that era of life like for you?
It was, I gotta, you really suck it in, and you just get so ecstatic over it. You're just like so you're kind of in awe, the pinch me moments. Like, am I really here? Did this really happen? How did I get here? You don't really think of all those little everyday things until you look back and say, oh my God, I did all of that. But I worked hard. I worked a lot, it stinks because like these days are when my daughters will say, you worked so much. I don't think you remember like a lot of us even. So it's tough. You try to make that work-life balance. It doesn't work that way, especially as an owner of a company, So I worked a lot. I built as hard as I could, and I enjoyed it though. I did. There was a lot of good moments. Especially in like the 22 area when we were just like popping off. Everything was great.
Do you like the process of building things from the
I
ground up?
do. I really do. That's the part of the creative of me.
That's how I am too.
I think if I could just do that, that would be, that would be great.
It's grueling. It can be grueling, especially if there's not much return on your efforts, which is most entrepreneurs' experiences within the first 2 to 3 years of their businesses, right? It's just all work and not a lot of return, but it's like you got to love it to keep going or else you're not going to make it.
So the restaurant business is actually a lot longer. The return is so small and at all in general. And I think a lot of people don't understand. I think they look at us as kind of like these, I don't want to say celebrities, but we look like we've got our shit together, but
it's
definitely a glamorous lifestyle
position,
that just looks,
but it's not as glamorous as people think.
Absolutely not. There's so much.
Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good.
What are the average margins on food? And I know it's different on food and beverage. There's a little bit more of a margin on liquor and alcohol sales, right?
Right. All in all, you are lucky to take 10% home. I'm not kidding. You're lucky to take your 10 to 15%. And that's depending on, do you own the building? Do you it depends on where you are. In the first 5 years, you're lucky to make it. Okay. So the average restaurateur, to get through the first 5 years is like 5%. I mean, it's very low. To get through 10, it's like 2%. Like the first 2 years are crucial. You're making nothing, absolutely nothing. You're living off your restaurant. You feed your family from your own restaurant. You pay your rent or your mortgage from your own restaurant. That's about it. You're not going to go buy a glamorous car. You barely can make gas, for your own self. You write a lot of things off, of course, but you live paycheck to paycheck, just like anybody else. But your money goes towards your employees first. Your food, your taxes, your rent, your utilities. It's all gone. The margin's so low. And like nowadays it's even lower.
That was gonna be like my next question is like, what about how have things changed in the past 2 years because of the prices of food and supplies have gone up so much?
Let me just give just a little inkling of where. So when I started, cost of an egg for me was 8 cents per egg. Right now it's 60 cents for one egg. So now you got to add in the factors. We have to add in the lights, the rents, all the extras that the state mandates that we have. Our employees, now they're actually, New York State is just through on 401k has to be given to all employees. All time. I think it's 30. I want to say it's full time, but I think they're allowed. You have to have it provided. It doesn't matter if they take it or not. You still have to provide it. So I don't have to match you, but I do have to provide it. Now that's another cost for me because I have to pay a person to do the 401k. So we have to pay a payroll place. There's the minimum wage went up to 15. I think they're trying to go up to 16 to 20 to whatever. Every time that goes up, the cost of your omelet goes up, and it's not so I can make money. It's just so that this business can stay in business. And that's it. I mean, and that's people I think don't realize that a $16 omelet doesn't mean a $16 omelet so I can take home 5 of it. It means so I can take home 60 cents of it, And that for me is less than some of my employees. Some of my employees make more than I do. So when we were building the restaurants and and the money was coming in, it was doing very well. Like I said, back in 22, I actually was able to breathe more because I had already been in business almost 8+ years. You don't realize that I've been in business 12 years for Rise and Shine. So when I started venturing off to do other businesses and other restaurants, I had a couple bucks, to start to play with, but it took almost 10 years to get there. It wasn't like it was an overnight thing. So you don't, and sometimes when you go into multiples, you can have you're 10% here, you're 10%. You actually start to build that, and you'll have more money to play with. So I had a period where everything was great, everything was doing well, and we were looking great, and you were able to take out loans, and business looked great, but things changed. Just like how COVID happened, the economy happened. So
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing to talk about because life, but especially business, is never going to always be an uphill, progressive experience. I mean, how many millionaires and billionaires have had to file bankruptcy and have had multiple businesses fail? A lot, but nobody really talks about that. We always see the highlights and the good things happening, but there's a lot of
failure.
failure.
And not in a bad way. Failure's good. Failure's good. It's good for your mind. It's good for you. It's good for your soul.
Sometimes, I think this is, you and I are similar. We have similar nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes hard for people like us to close the door on things ourselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes the door has to be closed on us
Yeah,
in order for us to finally put it to rest.
Right. Yeah.
So how did La La Lu even come to fruition? Where did this idea come from? What was your inspiration?
So, like I said, we're having those great years. That's when I think, and Loaded didn't start because I just made it up. Loaded was a pivot from COVID. So Rise and Shine, there was 2. We had 2 restaurants, but because we couldn't have the close proximity of each other, that place was very small, and I was still into 4-year contract of my lease. So if I left, he'd sue me for X amount of dollars. So I had to stay. So I was like, okay, pivot. What are we doing? Let's do a restaurant. Let's do a hamburger place. It's fast. It's easy. You don't have to all sit around. It's quick service, right? So that's how Loaded started. But then I was approached by the Grimaldis. She had, COVID hit her hard, and she wanted to retire. And she had asked me for many years to come and buy that building where La La Lu ended up. And, I was always like, no. But we were having a great year, and I'm like, you know what? Let's do it. I say us, me and my fiance at the time. So we bought the building, and we thought, let's just do a pasta joint. I want to keep it simple and do something, like she had. I'm going to spruce it up. Obviously, I'm going to make it look my way. And but we don't have a ton of money, so I had a good amount, but we didn't have as much as Lala became. So at some point, we were approached by our then soon-to-be partner who wanted to partner with us.
And how did they approach you? Did they hear about you buying Grimaldi's and they wanted in, or?
We had mutual friends, so they had always come to Rise and Shine and loved it. Always spoke highly. I think always was very interested in me and the success, and always praised me for how well I had done at that point, and how I think he just just noticed and thought this would be great. And in the beginning, it was all about being this. Let's make this big, huge, another success story out of another restaurant, but let's make it, with my creative ability, his social media reach, and popularity, that we could make this a really like amazing place. And especially now, you can match dollar for dollar. We can make this double what we could put in. So, and that's how it went, dollar for dollar. And always, contracts were written. That was the agreement, dollar for dollar. Let's do this together. We're gonna make this beautiful place. We're gonna make it happen. And somewhere along the way, and as I think I trusted everything that was going on, and I trust. I think what I want to say in business too. It's not about friendship. I hate to say that. It sounds mean and cruel. And people, when they say it's business, not pleasure, or it's business, not personal, like you really have to dig that line. This is my major mistake, is that business comes first. If that's what you're in business. You're not friends. You're business partners.
And business is such a, I mean, for people to pursue business alone, I say it's a spiritual journey. It's a very interesting thing to go through, but to go into business with someone else, it's very intimate.
Very intimate.
You need to be like family. You want to at least be able to trust someone like family, right? But of course, at the end of the day, it is business, and you need to make sure that there's
contracts signed and things written down, and all of your, I's are dotted and your T's are crossed, and you have put down exactly what you want. Don't leave anything vague. Be very specific. And I did hear that lately too. If you wouldn't, but that if you have the choice, so you would never go into business with someone you wouldn't bring home to Christmas. That's how I see it. And you think people. And I'm not saying anyone's right, wrong, or indifferent in any of the situation. He had his intentions. I have mine. We had ours. Did we meet at the table at the same time? Maybe not. Did I understand what he wanted? Maybe he didn't understand what I don't know what it was. Something fell off. The contract never got signed on the other partner's end. About 2 weeks before we opened, and we had already done the money, And if I was a real jerk at the end of the day, I didn't have to say, I'll pay you back. I could have, but I'm not. My morals are, yeah, you gave me money and we started this business, and you don't want to be a partner anymore. That's cool. That's fine. I don't hate you. Let's move on from this, which that's just who I am. I feel like other people would have treated the situation differently. And you go, so I went into it. We went into opening the restaurant.
You said 2 weeks beforehand the contract wasn't signed, but were they still involved or no?
Not really, no, at that point, because no, you're not a partner anymore. You don't get to really say anything. So you don't get to say like who's running the show. Once you're not 50-50 anymore and you're not part of the deal, the only thing that's left is I want my money back, So it became how did the whole thing dissolve?
Yeah, like how did that how did you go from both dreaming up this incredible new restaurant for Syracuse to no longer being in business together?
I don't know to this day. And we still all talk. And I'm not trying, this isn't me pushing in any which way. I'm talking about my perspective and what happened on my side. And what I feel, and I'm moving on from it. So it's really, I don't know. He didn't have the warm fuzzy feelings anymore. I don't know, and that's great. But like I said, contracts should have been signed 2 years while we were building, and they should have been done. And
any money was spent.
Correct. And and I blame myself for that as well. I hold myself accountable. I should have made that happen with you. Then that's what I'm saying. For anyone that goes into business, do not spend $1 on a piece of material. Don't buy one piece of wood. Don't buy one tabletop until you've all come to agreement exactly what you want and signed the dotted line together. That's it. You don't move on. You don't start taking each other's money. You don't start spending the money. It's not how it works. You need to all understand and agree exactly what's going on. And that just didn't happen. So he, backed out at the 11th inning. Is that how it goes in baseball?
At the 11th hour.
The 11th hour.
And so you kept going, though.
Of
you
course.
opened the
I'm
restaurant.
not going to, at this point, you can't stop. The doors are opening. The staff's already, the plates are bought. The food's ready. The people are hired. Where am I going to go? I have to go forward, right? So a new contract had been made up that we had to obviously say, we're going to pay you back. Cool. Let's just make this work. Hopefully, we make enough money to be able to pay you the mortgage, the restaurant, and survive. So 2 years, we tried. We absolutely tried.
What were some of the things that you tried to make things work? Like, I'm sure you go into full-on problem-solving mode, and that alone can be a creative process, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you're a resourceful person, as we talked about earlier.
Right.
So, like, what were some of the things you tried to do to make it work? I mean, this is all something to be extremely proud of, to keep it moving. Because the thing is, it's not just your dream. You had people hired, right? You have mouths to feed. So
Absolutely.
there's a great responsibility that comes with starting a business. And, you did all of this for everybody else and to maintain your own integrity, not necessarily to have a fabulous restaurant and make a bunch of money, because
Right. I mean, that was never the intentions anyways. It was to make a fabulous place for Syracuse. I mean, I've always wanted, and then we, as all of us at partners at the time, wanted to bring something from like that Miami, New York City, Europe vibe that no one had seen, and we'd have here in Syracuse of our own, So, we wanted one of those cool, clubby, kind of fun, but, and still knowing we're still in Syracuse and that, we're not the wealthiest city ever. And we're going to make this, that middle of the road, but still you can get it. You can come in and see this experience, and that was the whole intention. So I pushed forward with that, marketing the hell out of it, being as creative as possible, keeping that going, with all that tableside service, just everything. It was already there and in place at that point anyway. So we were just continued to go. A lot of things changed. We changed employees, which happens. That always happens. The first 6 months, the first 3 months, you open a restaurant, you lose half your staff. They just don't work, and it's just how that's how restaurants work. So then you pivot, you get, new chefs, new servers, whatever. So that kept going. But like I said, I never knew that this city would become a little more destitute because obviously the economy. I didn't put into factor. This is I did put into factor, but it didn't work in my favor. That this is very niche-y. This is very different. Not everyone's going to love it, but normally when you have the funds and you have the backing, you can sit on it for 5 years and keep working it until it does make some money. Like I said, you only have that. You have that mark up to 5 years before you're going to essentially make or break. And the 2 year, it's only the 1.5 year. We started to feel it. We were in the red consistently. You get your ups and downs when you open a restaurant. You first open a restaurant, you're hot. You're the new thing. You're the new shiny object. Everyone's coming. And then you try again, probably about the 6 month mark. You start to dip. You got to push again. And it's an up and down battle for the next few years. And if you can't get through that, especially without the money backing you to hold on, between the payroll and everything that you have to just to stay afloat, um, you're kind of screwed at that point. You gotta stop. So
And what did that decision look like for you when you knew it was time to?
and because I've had to, shut down a few in this past year, it really, that one hit me hard. It was heartbreaking. We took so much money, so much time, so much creative, and not just from me. I had employees that would just give it their all to try to keep it open. Let's do this. Let's try this. Let's try this. The chefs, the servers, the bartenders, everybody, they wanted it to work. Absolutely. I mean, people that were coming in thought it was the most amazing thing. I had so many out of towners. They're like, where are we? This is Syracuse, And I'm like, yeah. And, and they loved it, but it wasn't consistent enough. You have to have that consistent flow of the money coming in so that you can keep everyone and everything afloat. And it just never met that mark. There was too much coming in, too much going out, obviously, because we had to now pay back that, person. You got the mortgage, you got everything's the cost of everything was so much higher from the day that I started, to now this point and a year and a half later. I was just totally underwater. Yeah. So
What do you think you've learned just for yourself, from this experience? Because, I said earlier, like, we're the type of people that sometimes someone's got to shut the door in our face in order for us to put it to rest. Do you think that you've learned anything through this experience about yourself and maybe grown?
oh my God, absolutely. Absolutely. I think I've learned.
I'm sure you've done a lot of reflecting. The new year just happened, and
I've reflected so much. I honestly, I've been like meditation, manifestations. Like I'm all about that stuff. I always have been. I've been hitting it really hard. It took me down a whole lot of levels. But I think that's the best part. I think that being able to go so high and come so low and then say, you know what? I'm still good. I'm not dead. I still have my family. I may have lost a lot. My family, my restaurant family moved on. No one ended up on the streets. We made sure everybody was well taken care of, if not into another restaurant, whatever. Everyone survived. I'm in a lot of debt. Yeah. We getting smacked with lawsuits left and right. Sure. That's what happens though. I mean, this is the risk you take to get into business, and it's not for the faint of hearts. I mean, anyone that's ever taken a risk, you have that it's it can happen, and probably 90% of the time it does. I mean, if you get through unscathed, you are a friggin' miracle.
you probably didn't do something right if
I
you
don't know
got
what
through
happened.
business unscathed.
Jesus was on your side the entire time. I don't know. And actually, I think Jesus wants you to fail because I think that's part of it. I think
These are the parts of business that people don't talk about is
No.
getting sued
and it's so raw and it's so real. I think they're scared to talk about it. And that's why I love this. You need to. Because I don't want Mary Jane to go, I'm going into business. I'm going to open up a restaurant, or I'm going to open up my own clothing store and have like this tunnel vision of that this can't happen to her, because it can and it will. And you need to understand that that's part of taking these risks. You're going to fail. And it's a great feeling. It sounds so weird, but you're not invincible. and just you might feel like you are at some point when you're on your high, and then you suck that all in, and then you come back and realize, no, you're only human and you're going to fail. And it's the great part of it, though, because that's your learning. That's where you're going to sit down and you're going to reflect, and you're going to take all of that, that information in, all the bad things that happened, all the things that you could have done better, what like we said, who do you trust? Who do I'm going to look at doing business with other people differently. I don't want to say I'm going to hold up a guard, but I'm going to do it in a smarter way.
You have more discernment now. I mean, now you'll be able to tell if something's off.
And like I said, I've come from an educated, that's my word. Anybody wants it, you can't have it. I'm going to go copyright it right now.
She's going to go trademark
it.
Start a new brand.
And, it's education. I'm educated, and I learned as I went. I didn't have a lot of mentorship in my, as I was going through this, and I definitely didn't know how to handle that situation. No one taught
me.
Which
I find interesting, because a lot of people ask you for mentorship, and you give it out very willingly. So I personally, I see where my downfall can be, and it's because I am bad at asking for help. I don't know how to ask for help, and sometimes I don't know when I should ask for help.
You almost feel embarrassed. I think I don't, especially when I'd already gotten to a certain level, I didn't want to ask for help. I didn't want to look like an idiot. Like, how did you already get here and you didn't know that,
I mean, I think there's a time and a place for fake it till you make it. Like it serves us well, but then there's a point where it doesn't. It's not. I
almost hate that saying. I used to love it. I almost hate that saying, though, because you don't want to fake it so that you can't make it. You want to get somewhere, right? So I think it's more of like, you look the part, which is great. Act it, feel it, love it, embrace it. But you gotta have the knowledge. You can't just go in it blindsided, especially when you have that kind of money that you're playing with. You don't want to lose all of it. But again, that's the risk you take. You're gonna lose money. You're gonna lose lots of money. You got to be in it to understand that you're going to. And if it's not money, it's friends. It's family members sometimes that might just kind of off you. I don't think that happened to me, but I know it's happened to people. So
what kind of feedback have you gotten from people? What have you heard since all of this stuff has happened?
I am amazed, and I'm humbled, and I would cry right now, literally, to about the amount of people that have reached out to me, DMing me on my Instagram, mostly Facebook too. I don't know them. They're not even friends with me on half of my stuff, or they are, now they are, and saying, you need to keep going. You're an inspiration of mine. They're not probably the ones that have, if you look at the media right now and what I feel like I've been painted a picture of, you see these nasty remarks, painting me as this person who's stolen money or whatever, looking like this horrible person who I don't even really understand it, because I feel like these are people that probably haven't ever taken these risks and done what I've done, or other people like us have done, which is fine. They don't understand it, but these people that reach out to me are trying to, they're trying to build a knitting, one woman making knitted hats, and she's selling them. And, she looks at me as an inspiration, and I'm like, why? Because, you look at me at this point and you're like, what are you looking at me for? And they're like, because you're a badass. I swear, one woman said, you're a badass and you're a hottie. And I was like, okay, thanks. That was great. But why? And she's like, because I'm in awe. I've been watching you since you started, and to see that you've grown so far, and you're going, and it's okay that you're failing. You failed, and if you call that failing, I don't call it a failure. I call it, just a bump in the road, and something that you're going to get through, and that we all know that we can too. So that's like the icing on the cake for me, to know that there's women and men out there that saw all of this kind of happen, and still are mesmerized and inspired to do that on their own. And I think that's what it's about, to kind of lift each other up and see that I'm real, I'm raw, I'm human, and so are you. And it's going to happen, and it's okay. I'm not dead.
And I mean, there's something so inspiring about that, because most people don't take the risks that you're willing to take.
Yeah.
And for you to face such brutal public scrutiny, I mean, and just straight up lying, the media
literally.
lying, and folks lying about you. I mean, that alone has to be traumatizing.
It is.
Must make you want to like crawl into a hole. I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
But what keeps you going? I mean,
Things like that. I mean, that my family, my children, obviously, Alan, my significant other, and I hate to say this is a great thing. It's not anything that's good. I was in a pretty bad relationship with my daughter's father, and, toxic, super toxic, abusive on all sides. To push through something like that is so hard. You feel worthless and hated and nothing. And then I found Alan, and I persevered, found a great man. I still have my children, and I was fine. I was fine with just that. I didn't have to have restaurants and do all of this. But I think that makes you, I guess, like a harder shell and more resilient to take on negativity, and know that people don't do it coming from a place that they hate you. I think they hate themselves. People are negative because they might not like what they see inside them. And I know that everyone's just trying to find their own way. So, and I feel that from knowing when I was in a toxic relationship and kind of coming out of that, and then dissecting why, why was he like that? That makes me understand why people are like that. They're not everyone's great, not everyone's good. I think they want to be, and they're always internally fighting. So I just look at people and understand more.
you have a lot of perspective. You have so much compassion and grace for people. I mean, when we were sitting down before we hit the record button, I was like, wow, you are handling this a lot better than I probably would.
Well, that was one of the things the woman sent me and goes, "You're not in a mental institution yet?" And I said, "Nope, not yet."
I
You
mean,
can't commit me.
well, it makes sense, because, I mean, anyone that most people that could have experienced the high and the low that you did would probably have had a panic attack, at least mental breakdown, probably. But like, you having been through a toxic abusive relationship, then it probably just, your nervous system can probably take a lot of
You can handle
turmoil.
it. Yeah. I have turned to a lot of spiritual things. I think back then I did. I was one of those pivoting moments when I was poor, like unemployed, in that toxic relationship, that I had prayed to God and asked, for something. And that was around the time when Peter Hennessy had called me and spoke, and said, come to Rise and Shine. And at that time, I'm just getting a job, But to know what I know now and what I've been through and why, it's because I was given that moment to be where I am today. And everything's a learning lesson. Everything is brought to me for me to make what I want to make out of it. You're given these doors to go through. Just go through them. Go right freaking through them. They close on you. It's fine. It's fine. It's not going to do anything. That was what you were meant to do. But as far as getting through all of this, I think, like I said, I do a lot of manifestation. I love energy stuff. My daughter, my little one, Justina, she's my little energy worker. She's the massage therapist who is very holistic and teaches me a lot. My children teach me a lot. You have no idea. All three of them teach me so many different things about being human, being a mom, but being human. And it's tough with everything that, we've gone through, I've gone through. Tonight they're like, today's a full moon. So they want to go do some weird stuff. And I'm like, okay, whatever. We'll just go do that. But whatever makes me feel, I guess, human. I just want to feel. I just want to feel it,
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's hard to feel when you are in this constant state of doing. And I could only imagine your experience over the past year, but just business in general, I'm sure the restaurant business even more so, you are just constantly solving problems. There's always a problem to be solved. And I don't know about you, but I'm still figuring out my own ways of staying positive and resilient and not getting a bad attitude because, there's always a problem. There's always something. But I catch myself when I say that. And I'm like, no. We're going to fix our attitude because words are spells. And life is going to be hard if you say life is hard.
It absolutely will. And I promise you that because I've done it. I say it because I spoke it. I'm in a shitty situation. I'm speaking. Oh, I can't stand this. This is crazy. It just keeps happening. It just keeps happening. Why does it keep happening? Because you keep letting it happen. You keep speaking it into existence. It's there. The universe is like, you want it? Here you go. You got to literally shift your mind. You have to shift the way that you feel, the way that you act, the way that you speak, and just know, yes, right now it doesn't seem normal. It doesn't seem right. It's bad. It's horrible, but it won't always be this way. Nothing's forever, So you just got to just think of that to push you through and then say, nope, I'm great. It's fine. Have fun. You be you, I'll be me. And you can't let their negativity bring you down either, and it does. There's a lot of negativity that, even in the restaurants, some of the people that we work with daily, they'll come in with a bad attitude. But why? Why are you here with this attitude? And that's how I look at it. You're coming from, maybe you got something happened on the bus on the way over. You got into a fight. Maybe your mom's, been ragging on you. I don't know. Maybe your kids are crazy. I don't know. Whatever it is, it made you in a bad attitude. You're bringing it here. Stop. Put that at the door. Don't bring it in here. We're done. And we try to do that every day, but I guess you got to, I always just look at other people as like, I know you're probably going through something too. I'm not the only person in this world that's going through some shit. Everyone is, always, every day. And it's okay. You just got to I want to talk about podcasts. We were just talking about podcasts. What is his last name? Jay. Yes. He brought in this woman who just wrote a book. Man, I suck at names. I really do. I'm sorry.
Is it Mel Robbins?
Yes.
She just launched a book. Yeah. How do I know
Let
this?
Them.
I'm chronically online.
Let Them. It's
Yes,
called.
The Let Them Theory.
The Let Them Theory. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you
just
need
let
to.
'em.
Just let them.
I know. It's brilliant. It's so simple, but brilliant.
Insane. I was like, I listened to that whole podcast with just her and him. And I'm like, oh my God. That's it. let them and then let me. So that was like, let them be who they want to be
They
and
get to
let
do that,
me
and then you get to make your own decisions.
do what I need to do. Yeah. And that's it. That's life. That's literally life in a nutshell. Because you have to have that human interactions experience with everyone. You know, we're all here together for whatever reason, and our purpose is everyone's, I feel like, has their own, you know, path.
I think
And
the biggest thing for me was realizing that nothing is personal.
no, it's not. It really isn't. No one, that's why I say when I see that negative talk about me online, I don't think they're intentionally trying to hurt me or harm me. They are. I think it's something that comes from within.
Something you represent triggers them.
Right. Exactly. Because they don't know me personally. They don't. And if you're someone that can do something like that, there's something else going on, you know? And that's why the ones that were unspoken came to me on a DM. They slipped into my DMs speaking positivity. I never, not one person came to me in a negative way, you know, to my face. You know, they all were very, very inspired by this, whatever, all this stuff that had happened more than I thought they would be. If anything, I would, I think the opposite. But, you know, I guess that's human nature, is to see someone go through it and understand that they're real and they're a real person, and they could go through it too. So.
Well, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about Louise,
Oh
actually.
yes, I know. Poor Louise. They got.
I loved seeing that you were heavily involved with that project.
Mhm.
And I just thought it was the perfect project for you because of your love for art
Yes.
and, of course, dining and culinary
Yes.
experiences. So, how did that opportunity come into your lap, and what's happening with it right now?
So I think that was probably the most amazing pivot recently that made more sense to me than anything else. Because if you think of what I've told you with my you know, as my childhood and how much I really loved being a creative and art, that what an amazing opportunity to go into an art museum and serving, you know, this serving art on art essentially. And they, you know, emailed me. Jen, one of the heads over at the Everson, had emailed me years ago and kind of just was like, you know, back and forth, just talking about it. They had other restaurants they were looking at and other creatives that they were trying to do business with. But I think it was after Lala Lou that she saw what I could do, that she was like, oh, yeah, I think she's the one. Because I feel like I hadn't really gotten the opportunity to make my mark as far as what I could do when it came to like interior design and even in the food world. You know, I did so much with Rise, but Lala, I was able to do a lot more. So that it was just a lot of emailing back and forth, a lot of meetings. I had to get approved by the board, which was weird for me. I've never been approved by the board. We did a whole like, you know, food display and had to kind of like sell myself. So it was different for me.
For anyone that doesn't know what Louise is, like, what is the concept? So you mentioned art on art.
Yes. So essentially, Louise, the name of Louise is actually a person, Louise. She had, what am I trying to say? She had donated all of these. It's ceramics. So it's the Everson is one of the biggest ceramics art worlds, a museum place, I think, in the United States, maybe in the world. I'm not sure. They're known for the ceramics. So she has this plethora of artists in her pocket, kind of thing, that she had gotten all of these pieces, and they wanted to build that around that, and then make the cafe into, now you can eat on these pieces of art. So it's bowls, it's cups, it's plates, it's everything. And it's the first in the world. It's the first of its kind. You go to a museum, you go to a cafe, yeah, but you're not eating off of art. You're not eating off of an artist's, work of art. You're just eating off a regular plate. So I think they wanted, I don't know what their intentions were in the beginning, but when I came into play, it was more like, can you be really creative with the food part? And I'm like, well, yeah, that's what I love to do. So you eat this creative, and it's tough because we're still in like the lunchy area. It's not like dinner. It's not a breakfast. It's just kind of like lunch. So it's tough to get really creative because for me, I had, it's like sandwiches and
I feel like you could do really
soups.
fun pastas.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
really decorative. I'm seeing a lot of people do like really cool decorative like raviolis.
Yeah. Well, we did our rose raviolis. I brought them there
Yes.
from Lala.
That's right.
And I do want to get into that more. It's tough though. So, there's a couple little things. Of course, this is the behind the scenes thing of it is like there isn't a hood system. So we don't have a griddle. We don't have a stove. We have everything because it's still in the art museum. So it's you work with what you can, and it's small. So it's so that's how we come up with our things. Is you got to remember I'm still in this spot. It only has XYZ that I can work with, and then still be creative. So we do. I think we still do amazing. And just after it was the trees, the festival of the trees. Thank you. That we just saw a ton of people, which was amazing. So I think they finally are starting to see it's there, and come out and try us. So it's great.
Is the cafe open every day of the week, or are there certain?
It's certain days. I think it's mainly the days that the museum's open. So, but we're just doing the lunch, like I said. So we close at like 3. So it's like 11 to 3 most days. Wednesday to Sunday, I think it is. We were shut down for a few weeks just now for the winter period because it's just very slow. And give everybody a break, and then we'll be back up this week actually.
And do you guys do like coffee?
Oh yeah, we finally brought the coffee in.
I feel like
just
a
waiting.
nice little cappuccino in a really cool
and
mug.
the cute mugs. Yeah, we do lattes now too. So we have cappuccinos, lattes, flavor shots. I'm gonna start trying to bring in the latte art. I gotta get my skilled. Do you know who actually is the skilled little barista? Is my little Justina. She is a amazing little latte art
She's
girl.
got tons of great talents.
She's insanely talented, and everyone's like, "Oh, she gets her from you." I'm like, "No, she's more talented than I am. Like, way more talented than I am."
What's next? What are you manifesting for 2025? Is there any where are you putting your energy now?
So I've, obviously I drew all that inward, and working on myself, getting through this last year was tough. So I'm doing a lot of self-reflection and thinking what's next, and like, as I said, as a creative, it's not just in food, it's not just in the art. It could be anything. So I think I just want to be a little bit more expressive and doing things like this, for me to get the word out there of how, just the realism of any industry, and being a creative and being an entrepreneur, and what it takes. So, I'm talking about, there's like a plethora
I'm
of things.
sure there's a ton of ideas.
I don't really want to
floating
say
around.
too much because I'm not really sure how I'm going about all of this. But
Well, I did notice you're posting more on TikTok, so
I wanna
everybody
do
follow
social
her on
media.
TikTok.
I'm on TikTok. Can you believe that? I'm doing
I know you
TikTok.
posted a really good soup recipe the other day. It came across my For You page.
Isn't it? And then people actually were saving the recipe, and I was like, oh my God, okay, well, maybe that's my thing. So, I mean, I obviously can cook, so I was like, and it was just a basic soup for New Year's Day, but yeah, I had gotten a lot of action on there. So, and I only have like 300 followers on TikTok. So yeah, I do need followers. Yeah, and I'm on Insta. I love this whole podcasting thing. We were talking about writing, doing some writing stuff. So there's so many different options. Obviously, Rise and Shine is still here and here to stay. I mean, everybody wants to keep questioning. Question mark? No, there's no Rise and Shine. Question mark. Rise and Shine's here forever. and we'll figure out what's next for Rise, coming soon. So this year is about me, my family, and what's next. I mean, there's a lot of things that could be what's next.
I love this era though for you because there's seasons of life always, and for the past 12 years, it's just been a mad dash building. You've just been building nonstop. And that's great, but you're just in this constant state of doing, and you're not necessarily always doing to create, right? There's those sides of businesses that are not glamorous at all, like payroll and the schedule and all these things that nobody likes doing, right?
There's a lot there is not glamorous at all.
But you have 12 years of really unique experience under your belt, and now sounds like you want to shift your energy and kind of pour it back into yourself finally.
Yeah.
Which I think, this is your storytelling era.
Yeah.
And
I love that you said that.
You've got stories to tell now,
I have
right?
lots of stories.
And there's so many outlets you can use to express yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yes. I think it is my storytelling era. That's a good way to put that. I think that that's what I would love to do. I want to share my experiences more, and I think this is the era for a lot of entrepreneurs. I mean, I'm looking at life and in the world. We were talking about that the Mel Robbins, those type of people, you see them more being really raw. The celebrities are like kind of throwing themselves out there right now and just letting you see what's real, and instead of that fake facade that I feel like everybody is so groomed to know about everyone, that you need to see the real side of being an entrepreneur, of being who this person is that you guys all follow and see on social media. But it's not about that, like their everyday Joe is just like everybody else. You want to see that other side. So
I think that's the amazing thing about, social media and just the media in general now with all these podcasts that exist. A lot of the inspiration I pull from for my company and the brand I want to build it comes from people that live in Austin and LA and New York, and they're not here. Whereas, back in the day before all this information was so available, I would have had to leave Syracuse to try and do the things that I want to do, because it was, back in the day you needed that proximity to other people doing similar things. But now we can, round up all these stories and listen to all these podcasts and figure it out on our own and try to start things from exactly where we are, which is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create something in Syracuse that doesn't exist here, but it certainly exists already in Austin and LA. But I also think that just the past year has been so heavy for so many people. So many things have happened. And I think that now more than ever, we all need to hear these real, raw human stories. And we're just, consumers in general, we're tired of it. We're just tired of the facade. It's nice when things look polished, but
that's not real.
It doesn't always really, it doesn't resonate as much.
No, it doesn't. Because when you're at home, wearing your 2-day-old clothes and you're a mom smelling like who knows what, like you just know that's not real. You just know that's not real. And that's just the average person is the Joe Schmo that, goes to work on his 9-to-5 job and he's stuck in the snow and, just getting to and from, and the mom that's, with her kids and still having to go to work. And it's like, yeah, I don't look like that every day. And I don't do that. I couldn't do that in my whole 24 hours if I wanted to. I barely can sleep. So knowing that everyone is human and that, yeah, some, have different backgrounds and worked a little harder or worked less, whatever it was. But at least we know that, we're all on the same page, and I want to watch somebody that worked their ass off and see how they did it, and not just see the success stories,
Yeah, because that doesn't really help anyone. It's inspiring,
Yeah.
But the stuff that really helps people is talking about stuff like this, talking
Yeah.
about the failures,
The
and
day-to-day.
the learning lessons.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I appreciate your vulnerability and your honesty. And I also appreciate your trust in me to share your side of things and to share your story. And I have no doubt that whoever's listening to this will want to hear more from you.
Oh,
So
good.
definitely consider,
Yeah.
think about how you're going to start,
Right.
showing up more, because I think people do want to see more of you.
I love that. Thank you.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Cultivate CNY. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you left us a review and make sure you're subscribed to the show. Speaking of the show, if you know anyone or if you are interested in being our next guest on Cultivate CNY, be sure to submit us an application. You can just click the link in the show notes. And if you're a business owner that's interested in getting in front of our audience, you can go ahead and email us at podcast@cnywomensnetwork.com to learn more about sponsorship and advertising opportunities. All right, that's it for now. I'll catch you guys next Monday.